I know I'm looking a little rough. Had some things burned off pre, skin cancer stuff, so I apologize. Just listen, don't look. Great advice. Okay, so when Ammon cuts off the arms of people that stole the king's sheep and actually killed people for just stealing sheep, but killed them. Think celestial. That's what he was doing. He was thinking celestial because he was thinking that this would be a way that he could serve the king, show the power of God within himself, and he's thinking celestial. I think so often we just get this so goofed up in our heads that thinking celestial is just walking around with the halo around us and having pale white skin, long skinny fingers with no calluses on them, and we just never confront, never do anything like a real man would do in protecting anything or doing anything. My point is this is about Donald J. Trump, right? Okay. He was thinking celestial when he was nearly killed within like this, right? And he acknowledged God in performing that miracle. So that's thinking celestial. He then once he came to, and a couple of Secret Service were helping him, and there were others that were shorter, and one had their hair in a ponytail. Are you kidding me? How stupid is that? Anybody that wanted to like confront him right on could grab that ponytail and whip her head back. And they were ducking down, not protecting the president. This is DEI hiring, right? Diversity, inclusion, and equity. This is so bad on so many fronts. We'll get more into this, but we have turned, in my opinion, a lot of our missionaries in thinking that being celestial is just peace all the time, never doing anything. And what I saw quite often, now look, it's not every situation, okay? But it's enough that I think I need to bring it out. But we have missionaries coming home that have been their manhood has been taken away. It's like, what, you're kind of weird. You're talking weird. You're not, we have got to raise boys to be men. Okay. It's so interesting that we never really talk about Ammon killing and cutting arms off in order to be able to teach the gospel. Now look, I'm not saying that we go out and do that every single time, but I am saying that it's in Scripture. And we liken the Book of Mormon to ourselves, and we liken missionary work. We have done just the opposite of what Ammon, and we wouldn't consider Ammon a prophet in the sense he had revelation specific for his call and what he was going to do. But he was like, hey, I can do something here that's manly, that's going to have an influence for good. And quite often I think members of the church have taken Donald J. Trump as a womanizer, and he's this and he's that, and he speaks rough and he uses bad language. In my opinion, he is more celestial than any other candidate that even comes close to being celestial and a candidate for the president of the United States. Is he perfect? Heck no. Am I perfect? Heck no. But what options are you looking for? Just Oh my goodness, I get so frustrated on this, and we permeate this out throughout the church all the time. That a real man is one who just always speaks calmly, never confronts. Do you think Ammon? What do you think he was doing? He was wielding a sword. This brings up another interesting thing. This could actually get into the geography of the Book of Mormon a little bit, which we have we just last week, or maybe the week before, we read, I think it's Alma 22, that goes through big geography of the Book of Mormon. But what kind of instrument would you have to sever an arm? Like, okay, so if you've butchered an animal, if you don't have a bone saw, you're going to find joints, right? And it's not too difficult to bone out an animal with a knife. I've done it several times, and you bone it out, then you can bring the meat home and, do whatever you're going to do with it. Steaks, roasts, jerky, strips, whatever you're going to do. Nice, those back straps, nice thin fillets. I call them breakfast fillets because you can cut them really thin, cook them fast, have some eggs and steaks. Oh, whoops. I'm not supposed to eat that way. Eat meat sparingly. Back when that revelation was given, some people would eat up to 15 pounds of meat a day. So sparingly would be like only 2 pounds of meat a day. I don't know. Anyway. To sever an arm, it'd be like, okay, did he find exactly like a shoulder joint, or was it an elbow? We don't really know, but we do know that there was a pile of them. He had them like this, and he throws them. They throw them. The servants throw them there at the feet of King Lamoni. To sever an arm. Now we know that ancient Mayan, from the depictions of pictures, they had a sword in a sense, but it was wood lined or edged with obsidian. Obsidian is all over in Mexico, and it's scalpel sharp, razor sharp. So that's a possibility. A steel sword would I think would have difficulty. Now we know when they were at war and they were doing things, they had swords after the manner of the sword of Laban, which was steel, and I understand all that as well. So it's up there. It could be just the power of God within him. Think celestial. Grab a sword, cut off some arms, kill a few people to get favor of the king. We need to acknowledge that happens at times. It doesn't happen all through the Book of Mormon. We can talk about Teancum getting the spear, throwing it in the heart of, was it Amalekiah maybe? I can't remember now. And he did it one other time, and then that kind of backfired on him. But we can also talk about quite often what really gets talked about is the anti-Nephi Lehites, or the people of Ammon, who bury their weapons of war or their weapons of rebellion. Well, if you read this, if you read it all and study it all, in order to repent fully, that's what they had to do because of all the murders they had committed. And but that is one of the most quoted things about how we should be celestial and always peaceful. Is that we're to be the people of Ammon. Well, I've never killed anybody. I've never raised my hand against anybody. Well, that maybe raised my hand, but in defense, right? Never attacked somebody where these people had. And in order to repent fully, they had to say, look, we're not going to do it anymore. And if we die, we die. Okay? So little different situation. That doesn't apply to everybody. And then you would have to ignore, Captain Moroni, and you'd have to ignore the sons of Helaman. You'd have to ignore Mormon and Moroni and all, just on and on and on. Alma, both Almas, because they all raised the sword in defense of their people. So, and they were thinking celestial. Think celestial. Our young missionaries going out, but I'm talking about the males. We really need to make a conscious effort as parents, grandparents, to toughen them up, because the culture of the mission right now is just, it's not manly. It's not manly. And I have an issue with it. Now, look, I'm not in charge. This is just my opinion. Interesting thing happened at church on Sunday. So here we have President Trump, half inch, perhaps. If he would have taken it, here, or he turned, probably. Okay, so I can't remember if that was a 223 or 5.56. I can't remember what the caliber was. I'm sorry, I forgot what that was. But you're talking probably what? I don't know. I'm saying 2,500 to 3,000 feet per second. So literally at the squeezing of the trigger, 150 yards away. We'll get into that in a second. Squeezing that trigger off, Trump turns to see that screen just in time. Bam, right? Well, I guess it was this year. I think it was this year. And so if Trump would have been killed, in my opinion, during this, during that, I forget what they're called, but a rally, Trump rally. If he would have been killed there, I think there would have been civil war. I really do. So God was not only looking out for Donald J. Trump, God was looking out for this nation. And I just get goosebumps. I get goosebumps when I got an alert on my phone that this had happened. I wasn't watching, and so I turn it on. My son calls me, almost the exact same time. Turn on the news. Trump has been shot, but he's okay, kind of thing. And so you look and see, and then everything just starts filtering. And when the first thing I heard was, "Let me get my shoes," by President Trump. This is after he's been shot. And then he goes, "Wait." And he puts his fist up there. Fight, fight, fight. Think celestial. That's exactly what Trump was doing. We just have to get off this softness all the time. That is not always celestial. It's not. Fighting, fight, fight, fight. Ammon fought, and what did that do? Soften the heart of King Lamoni. We have so many examples in Old Testament, Book of Mormon, definitely, many chapters of it, where fight is thinking celestial in that it brings peace. Now look, I'm not saying we go out and look for fights. I'm not saying this. And people will turn this around and they'll give me all these examples of where, you don't do that. Christ himself said, "I didn't come to bring peace." I'm coming with a sword. And we always think of Christ as he came as the sacrificial lamb. That's all we think about. he's coming dressed in red, and he's coming on a horse, not a donkey. The donkey or the mule or the ass is symbolic of peace, but a horse is war, and he's coming with his sword bathed in heaven. We always think that Christ is the example, and I absolutely believe that and agree with that. And the time that he came as a sacrificial lamb, he was the example. Now, are we looking at the Christ of the past or the Christ of the future? That's kind of interesting, isn't it? We always criticize the Jews and the children of Israel for rebelling because they were looking forward to what they thought, the Messiah was going to be. Well, we're looking back and we're not looking forward to what Christ is going to be, right? And so his time of being the sacrificial lamb, the innocent lamb, is over. That's over. Now, I'm not saying there aren't times when that's the thing you have to do for preservation, but we have to fight in order to think celestial. We have to look at how Christ is going to be coming in the second coming, what he's going to be doing. We should be talking about that more. In my opinion. Now, I always say my opinion because this is not the opinion of, I don't represent, my views aren't official views of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They're views of mine as I study the Scriptures, as I see people, as I know the Spirit witnessed to me that Donald J. Trump is a man's man when he, I can't even imagine what the sound of that. I've heard, and I can't verify this, that it broke his eardrum, just that having a bullet. You saw that one photo that showed the streak of the bullet going past his head. And then he thought, or the Spirit was over him, and it really showed who he was. Because in those situations, all your fakeness is revealed, and he is who he is. There's no fakeness. And he even, they're trying to duck his head down and get in the car, and he says, "No, I'm doing this again. I'm pumping my fist again." I'm not here to get on the Trump train and do all this stuff. You guys have known how I felt about Donald J. Trump. And this isn't like, all of a sudden I'm going to get on the Trump train. I just think it was so raw and so real, okay, that it showed us who Donald Trump really is, was, and will be, okay? An imperfect man, but definitely protected by God for so many different reasons. And I don't think the attacks are going to be over. I think the left, and here's my theory on this. This was so botched that to allow an individual within 150 yards, guys. I've made a group like this at 100 yards with open sight 30-30, just like this, and it was bullseye. In the heart area, it was kind of a target of a deer with the heart, And I made a group like this. I'll next time I'll get that. I save that target. So granted that's 50 yards less, but a 30-30 open sights, buckhorn sights, and I was on a bench. But anybody with limited training could make a 150-yard shot. And an AR style rifle is kind of interesting. That's not your typical thing. But if I were somebody who, this gets into my theory, but if I was somebody who wanted to make those illegal semi-auto assault rifles, if you want to call them that, so stupid. ARs are used for all kinds of things. But you put the word assault in there and it just goes crazy. Well, that's the kind of gun you would have them use. Oh, well, his dad purchased it, so he got it. Oh, how convenient. Yeah, 20-year-old. Loner. Isn't that all just so interesting? This is so reminiscent of the Las Vegas shooting, the largest shooting in the United States of America, killing of people. And we still don't know anything. How did he get all those guns and all that ammunition in that hotel room? Are you kidding me? It's so fake. It's so fake. It's so fake. This whole thing just smells. Many people. It's recorded. You can see it. Thank goodness people were recording. It was like, hey, there's a guy on the roof with a gun. Huh? What? You know, and then we have the one, you got to be careful with specific things, but apparently one officer went up the ladder that the gunman had used. The gunman turned and pointed at him, and so he went back down the ladder, and that's when he shot. I don't know if all that's true. What I do know is that building was within 150 yards, and nobody's checking it out. Give me a break. Give me a break. The whole thing just stinks. It stinks. Now look, they've through Trump's presidency, they harassed him, they impeached him. They've charges against him and convictions, just bogus stuff, and they call him Teflon Don, right? I mean, everything was just shedding off. None of it worked. More people were just going, well, I'd rather have him than our current president, so we're still going with him. And they thought this would all just crumble and destroy him, and it didn't. And many people, Tucker Carlson, others, were saying, you know what? There's not much else that they're going to be able to do other than take him out. Well, and then guess what happens? Oh, it's just this random guy, it's just this nut job, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't think it's over. I think they'll continue to try to attack Donald Trump and keep him from. Now, one of the interesting things about J.D. Vance, as the vice president, he is one of the few that's very vocal about not being involved in Ukraine and this stupid, sickening war that we don't take care of our own things here in this country, and we just give billions to the corruption in Ukraine. It lines the pockets of all these neocons. We have Nikki Haley, but then in the Senate you have Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and there's many others. These are the Republicans, and the Democrats you'd think would be like, oh, we don't want to be involved in war. Well, that was the Democrats of the past. The Democrats now and probably in the future, it's war, baby. War. This is how we get rich. This is how we empower our families and how we empower ourselves, is by going to war. It's the most sick thing. Trump is the president that will keep us out of wars. He's the guy. There's no other that even preaches that. And the current administration, my goodness, they'll get us involved in every little thing that there is. And I love Israel. I support Israel. I talk about Israel. Israel is everything as far as the second coming. Maybe not everything, but most everything that's prophesied about will be in Israel, the land of Israel. I have a sign outside there, outside my home. I'm looking out the window. It says, "In this home, we stand with Israel." And it has the Israeli flag. It's a yard sign. And I have it right out front out there. I love it. But sending money from the United States to a foreign country, I don't know. I mean, we don't have this money. It's just printed. We're so far in debt. Individuals, wealthy people who want to contribute, absolutely. I'm not wealthy, but I contribute in many different ways to causes in Israel. That I love, and that I think is important. But this Ukraine thing is so corrupt. J.D. Vance is one of the few that's against it. And I bet Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, if he even knows what he's doing, he's right along the lines of our current president. They're all for just billions to Ukraine. Keep the war machine going. It's ridiculous. I think if Trump gets in, we will be out of it, and I think that war will dissipate. It's corrupt. Zelensky was in Utah, of all places, begging for money again with the governor's conference that Governor Cox is the head of, and they're all, oh, Ukraine, and celebrating him, and then the PR guy with the church, the new one, that's so far left and supports every crazy leftist cause. He gets his picture with Zelensky, and this is just so ridiculous. We need men. We need to think celestial. We don't need to do unnecessary wars in lands that don't have any effect on us. And you can say, oh, well, if we don't, then Russia will take over. Really? Really? You really think that? You really think we're in a better place now when talks of nuclear war, or there was never that kind of talk before? This is the most heated it's ever been, because people are just pushing these buttons to get things stirred up so that we can get defense contractors and other people and get this money laundered through, and then line our own pockets. And then, man, we're happy. We have power. We have influence. Our families are set for life. How do these politicians who will always want these wars, how do they go in as pretty, humble as far as their money, and within a few years they're multimillionaires? Most of it comes through war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. So we can do these fake wars to make ourselves wealthy, or we can do real wars like Ammon and Alma and Moroni and Helaman, that are really defending freedom, liberty, the right to worship God, protecting our families. That's where we should be focused on, and not be so wimpy on those things, and so aggressive on sending billions of dollars to have. Ukraine's lost most of their young people. They've got 40, 50, 60-year-olds out fighting now because all the 20, 30-year-olds are dead. It's so ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So my theory is on the shooter, all staged, all deep state, that the The CIA's been compromised. Most of any kind of federal. I mean, here you have, how should I say it? The current administration hires a big lesbo to handle the Secret Service, and her main goal is to get 30% of the staff of the Secret Service agents as women, and that's it. Doesn't matter if they're good or if they're tall enough to protect. Trump's not a small guy. And did you see the coward? The like, I think there was one that seemed like she kind of knew what she was doing, but the three other women that were just like, one was waving a pistol around like this, like, what the heck? You don't do that. It was crazy. And the other was hiding, not trying to protect the president, just ducking down. I mean, what do you say? You hire the best. You hire the best, the strongest, the most trained. This DEI is big in the church too. But I better be careful on that. But here's what we do. Okay, an interesting thing at church. I can't remember if I finished my thought on this. This is how bad I get. But so go to church. We've already had the statement read that we're not supposed to talk about politics, in church. And we go there, and there's not one mention in church, sacrament meeting, and we had priesthood meeting, elders quorum, and nobody even spoke of the assassination attempt on the president. And I kept my mouth shut on purpose on this and not to bring it up, because I just wanted to observe and see what happened. But we had a lesson on miracles. And I can't remember is it Bowman? I think Elder Bowman, who last conference talked about, he was given, or he was told in his patriarchal blessing that he would heal people and raise them from the dead. And then he told some experience of where he had done that. I think it was Bowman, Elder Bowman. But so we talked about that. Nobody mentioned the miracle of Trump not getting killed. I was so amazed. Didn't even bring up anything about an assassination attempt. This is really interesting to me, the culture. Now, I would like to hear in the comment section if you went to church on Sunday, if anything was brought up about Trump being shot in a sacrament meeting or priesthood meeting. Not just people talking in the hall or to each other, but in a lesson type or a talk type or a prayer type. We are so paranoid, we'll allow the alphabet soup to be talked about. We'll allow all kinds of things in a church setting because we're inclusive and we're soft and we want equity, for everybody. But when it comes to a guy who has been painted as an individual who's a womanizer and he uses bad language and he's this and that, it makes you wonder if guys like Ammon or Tiancum or Captain Moroni or Helaman, if they were individuals who their language was always really good, really appropriate, and if they were kind of soft, I would say in the midst of war, it's who knows, but with Trump being painted like this, many in the church, especially in Utah, they just are like, well, maybe I'll have to vote for him because he's the lesser of the two evils. after what he did and how his character was portrayed, you can't fake what happened here. Your ear gets shot just that far away from, you're done. You're with the angels in heaven, right? And yet he had the presence to be a real leader. That's not fake, that's real. And I would hope people would acknowledge that. And acknowledge that he is the closest thing we have to someone running for the President of the United States that thinks celestial. Immediately, he acknowledged that God saved him. That is so cool. He's always welcoming prayers for him by different people. They'll lay hands on his head. He'll say, please pray for me, right? So he's very open to that, and I think we ought to embrace that and celebrate that. But yeah, in the comments section, if you wouldn't mind telling me your experience in church, not in just a conversation, but in a lesson or prayer. We had 0 in ours. Nothing brought up because, it might be too political and it might offend somebody. It's just like, good night. You can't even acknowledge that a former president and the leading candidate for the next president of the United States attempted assassination, and it can't be brought up in a prayer. It can't be brought up it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Sue and I gave the prayers, and I got to think how I can say this. Let's just say that I'm on probation a little bit. So I had to acknowledge that there were secret combinations alive, and when I was praying, that's what came into my head, and that we know that there are secret combinations and that they manifest themselves, and that, praying for inspiration to realize who these secret combinations are, and that kind of thing. It's just interesting how we are in almost paralyzed to say anything just straightforward. And I'm speaking about within the church culture. So here's the thing. Almost everything that I approach, I look through it as the lens of a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's just how I am, and so that's the same as with this situation with President Trump. So I do think that secret combinations, nefarious individuals were involved in this. It wasn't just some loner guy that just decided to do something. There's just too much evidence to say that this wasn't a bigger deal. And I will say that Donald Trump manifests himself as thinking celestial. And I think that's it for this video. Those are my takes on that. Apologize. I went to the Wind Rivers backpacking. I always feel a little like I got my man card back after I do that. We've been tending a grandson, a young one. Always been a lot of fun, but it's all hands on deck. He's taking a nap right now, so I hope my ranting hasn't awakened him. But so Sue and I are doing well. Life is good. Interesting, fascinating times. I want to get in next video maybe, or sometime I'm going to get into the abomination of desolation again. I have some different thoughts on that and how that could have already, part of it could have happened already, and also that the sacrifice had been taken away or not able to do for a period of time. Some thoughts on that. So we'll go with that for right now, and I hope you guys have a blessed day, and that we'll all think celestial and not always think of it as being a wimp. God bless. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.